All right, I want to welcome everyone to our Apple Corp Dallas Super Saturday. This time we have Chelanie Israel here to talk about upgrading our Apple devices. And we've had Chelanie speak to us several times in the past. It's always a great presentation. So we want to welcome her, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So when Richard first got in touch with me and he talked about upgrading, most of the people, when they talk about upgrading machines, they're actually talking about not necessarily their current machine, but upgrading to new machines. So I've kind of dedicated this to upgrading to a new machine and some of the things that you may want to look at as you start to determine what kind of new machine or what kind of new device that you want, not necessarily just an Apple machine, but maybe an Apple iPad or a phone or those kinds of things, rather than actually upgrading the machine that you currently have. There just wasn't enough time to go into both.
Okay.
So, and the last half of this will be literally nothing more than just Q&A, as we were going to talk about troubleshooting things. So I'm here to answer your questions and see if I can answer the questions that you have that you may be facing. All right. So when you upgrade your machine, you're looking at, or device, you're looking at what you currently have versus where you need to go. And one of the biggest questions, of course, is how long do you keep your devices? We have people that keep their devices from the average of a 3-year, which is Apple's rotation. They expect most businesses to rotate on a 3-year basis, to those of us who keep our machines for way longer than that. And whether we continue to use them or we use them for specific other items or projects that we use for them. I know probably everybody here has at least 2 machines, one that they consider their primary and one that they use as something else. So we have probably 12 or 13, depending upon what we're looking at. And they're not all Macs, so it will depend on what project we're doing as to which machine we're using. So the first thing you want to do is you want to know what you need to do with that device. Is it going to replace your current machine? Is it going to replace your primary machine? Do you use it for presentations? Do you use it for general surfing? Do you use it for email? You know, what are the things that you want that device or that machine to do? And is your current machine doing everything? It's just getting old and slow? Or is it something that you really want to upgrade because it's not doing everything you want it to do? So if it's not doing everything that you want it to do you need to look at maybe going from one of the consumer-based machines like an iMac into something that's a little bit higher or more intense, like a Mac Studio or a Mac Pro in the process? What applications do you need to run? Are there certain specific things that the applications that you're going to be needing to run, do they have hardware requirements? If you're looking at something like video, the hardware requirements are going to be higher than something that if you're looking at iMovie. Okay, so those are things that you'll need to keep and decide what needs to happen. Another big portion is, of course, how long are you going to keep your device? You rotate it in the 3-year process that Apple thinks that you need to, or do you keep your machine closer to 5 years or 7 years or 10 years? I mean, there's many people out there that keep their machines for 10 years that don't ever change operating systems or anything else. So then you also have to look at, if your machine is 10 years old, does it have the original operating system on it, or have you upgraded the operating system as well? And are you in the current operating system, or are you 2 or 3 operating systems behind? Those are all things that you've got to consider as you get ready to migrate to a new machine or a new device. Do you need something that travels with you? Is weight a consideration? I don't know about anybody else, but as I've gotten older, the heavier the device is, the less often I take it anywhere with me. Yeah, it's hard enough when you put a 13-inch iPad and you're in with everything else, and then you're looking at computers, or the 16-inch is definitely not what I would consider something that's super simple to travel with. And for multiple reasons. When you get into an airplane, a 16-inch is a little bit big for the footprint and can bother your neighbors. So that may be something that you need to consider, especially like on the 10-hour flight, that you're looking at. Do you need cellular access, or are you going to be able to access Wi-Fi, or do you have a device that you can use to access Wi-Fi with your process? Most of us all have phones, so cellular really isn't a big issue anymore. We just connect via hotspots. But as you go through the process, there may be areas where you don't have cellular access. So those are things that you're going to need to consider as well as you start to look at the various machines that you upgrade. Another thing that you may want to consider is, do you want a traditional, or are you really ready to just jump into the new Apple Silicon architecture? We're pretty much comfortable with the Silicon architecture at this point. Most of our vendors have now moved up to the Apple Silicon as well. So they have universal applications that will work on either. As we start to migrate out of the old Intel and traditional architecture, you're going to start seeing some of these vendors drop those older connections. So you're only going to end up with Apple Silicon applications. So as you're looking to upgrade, those are some of the things that you need to consider. Especially if you have homegrown applications that aren't necessarily supported by some of the more intense vendors that are out there. Adobe, Apple, FileMaker, those kinds of people. If you have something that is specific, it may have been built specifically for the traditional architecture and is not ready to move to Apple Silicon. So those are things that you need to look at as well. Again, we go back to device choices. Maybe you're looking at retiring. You don't need as big of a machine as you did 5 years ago. You need something that's a little less. You need something that's lighter, something that's easier. So you may not necessarily need to go with a computer. You may be able to go to an iPad Pro, or you may be able to go to an iPad Air, or even an iPad, depending upon the things that you want that device to do. You may want to keep your computer to continue to work on other things. But as you get to the point where you are less doing the things that a computer needs to do and more doing the things that you need to do when you're traveling, you may want to migrate to something that's a little less expensive or is not quite as capable, because you just don't need those capabilities. So those are some of the things that you can think of as well. So there's consumer and pro in all of the devices, basically. So you have the iMac, the Mac Mini, the MacBook, and the MacBook Air, which they all consider consumer products. These are products that they really think are designed for people who work at home or are students, not necessarily the professionals. Of course, what they don't understand is that we all use all of these. But in their process, Apple has decided that the Mac Studio, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Pro are what they consider their professional line of products. And then they've got the Studio Display, which will, of course, connect to anything, not quite as intense as the Pro Display. And the Pro Display XDR is a really great display, but unless you want to spend $5,000 for the display, probably is not something you want to go to. It's really designed for people that are doing high-end animation and video work and very intense graphics work is what that display was designed for. So that's kind of where we are in those. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yes, sir.
I wish you could help me sometime to get my Apple Vision Pro to Zoom with this club. Men's a club I can Zoom with halfway because they got audio on one machine, video on my Vision Pro.
Okay.
But I don't want to take the grass from what you're playing. Next month I'm gonna have to present.
Okay. All right. We can probably talk about that afterwards,
Yeah.
and we can kind of see
And
what we need to do.
one, I think we're gonna end at 12. At 1 o'clock, there's a mentor thing where I can Zoom sort of halfway.
Okay.
Right, and so we'll have something cool with warm-up brains.
Okay.
Question?
Yes.
So, I have an old, Mac, iMac, and Apple's not supporting that anymore. Is there things that you would recommend if I want to keep that going, to keep it safe?
By not supporting it, won't repair it, it breaks.
Well, what about, for antivirus?
Okay. So the antivirus that I suggest is either ESET or it's E and then SET or Malwarebytes. Both of them have legacy versions, so you can use them pretty comfortably on most machines that function. I won't say all machines because some of us have machines that are really old that it won't function on. But most Intel-based machines and most Mac Apple Silicon machines, both of those will work on. Okay.
You have Malwarebytes on.
Okay.
Premium,
All right.
but it's just recently, the last week. Not, it's not, I can't click on it and have, and I think in the background it's has its antivirus going, but I can't. I click on it, it shows, please buy this and things like that, so, is there a way when you delete it and,
You may want to go ahead and delete that app or just reinstall the same app that you have on there. If you need to, you can go to their website and go to the archives area.
How old is your iMac?
2014, late 2014.
Yeah, you're still within the range. You shouldn't have too many problems.
Biggest worry is having a browser that will, like if you're doing home banking or something that
Yeah.
requires a particular level of security, one of the first things you're gonna run into with older software, like especially the older versions of Safari, is that your bank's gonna say that your browser is out of date. Fortunately, there are third-party browsers that like Firefox and
Chrome, Brave.
whatever, that might still allow you to do home banking on your older computer when Safari won't let you anymore because for security purposes.
My old 2008 MacBook Pro. When I go to a website, it'll say, this hasn't been certified. Or something. So it might have lower security on it, so it's worried. Whereas the new Mac doesn't work. That's it. The only guess I have what's going on, but I don't know for sure what's going on.
Yes.
Do you find that people tend to overbuy, that they really, they buy much more than they really need to do need to have to accomplish what they intend to do? And I think that's an important decision that people need to make is.
I actually see more people underbuying than overbuying. Yeah. We have a lot of people that underbuy because, you know, I love Apple, but don't go to an Apple store and ask somebody what you need because they're going to sell you what they have. You know, they sell you 8 gigs and 256 megs of memory when you have a terabyte of space at home that you need to move. And it's like all of a sudden you have no hard drive space. Well, but you would be surprised at how many people don't even know what they have.
You mentioned when, and that's one of the issues that I have when I was working, you know, full time. I was pretty much able to buy whatever I wanted, not what I needed. And I think I'm discovering that I really need to justify my needs and my wants because of my budget. And
Right.
you know, I don't know if you recommend maybe if they can't afford exactly what they want on the high end, is to maybe look at something maybe that's newer but refurbished.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Question,
yes,
Chelanie, don't you think that we've reached the point where to buy an Intel now would really be a mistake?
I personally probably wouldn't buy an Intel machine, but the other day I had a client that we ended up deciding that an Intel machine was going to be better for her because the primary program she was using is not ready for Silicon yet.
Oh,
They have
yeah,
not upgraded their systems for those. So we bought the very last i9 MacBook Pro for her so that she could go ahead and continue to use that application while they migrated over to Apple Silicon because it was a custom design program for her.
I just feel like some people, they just look at the price, and the Intels, especially used ones, are so cheap. And
Absolutely. And the reason that they are because they're the old architecture.
yeah,
Absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk.
that was the point I wanted to ask about. I think that even there are used M1s around now, MacBook Pro M1s around that are just an absolutely bargain price, I think.
Yeah.
I've had one for 3 years, and it's just a wonderful machine. But people feel like they want to go with the cheaper machine, and missed the mark as far as the future is concerned.
I agree. I agree. And that's one of the things that when somebody comes to me is we sit down and look at how long do you keep your machine? And is this something that we're looking for in the process as we get ready to determine which devices that they need? The same thing happens, and I've noticed a lot with iPads, is they will actually ask you what price point, not necessarily what do you really want to do with this?
Yes, yes.
What information do you want to keep on this? What do you want to be able to do with it? Is it replacing a computer? Is it something that you're migrating into as the process goes through the system? And as we get more people that are constantly moving, that are doing more things, and they really don't understand the migration between a computer system and the other devices, or what all do we need to tie together to make your workflow function correctly. So that especially in a business office, you have people that come into the office, you have people that move from the office, and that during the COVID transition, this was very apparent that a lot of offices really didn't put thought process into making their workforce mobile. So it was tough for a lot of companies because none of their devices and none of their products were ready to go from office to home during that process. So we're trying to keep a wider range of mind processing and computer processing open as we go through these processes now.
Thank you.
So, and then of course, you always have to look at what additional accessories do you need? Okay, are you getting a computer? Are you getting an iPad? Are you getting a phone? Do you need earpods? Do you need cases? Do you need tempered glass? What are all of the things that you need that go with that device? And do we have all of the connections or the pieces so you can plug your printers and your scanners and all of those other devices that you're using into the newer machine? Especially if you're going from a traditional architecture machine to an Apple Silicon machine, all of the ports have changed. So do you have an adapter that we can plug all your old devices into? Do you need to upgrade those devices when you upgrade your machines? You know, what kind of plan do we need to make to get everything migrated? And what kind of budget over the next 3 months, 6 months, year is it going to take to get everything there? As intense and as much as everybody can uses their computers and depends on their computer systems, a lot of people don't stop to think about the big picture in the process. They're only thinking about the single device. And so it really works when somebody thinks about the whole entire electronic scope of what they're looking at. You know, do you connect your machine to a TV? We have lots of people that stream from their computers to the TV nowadays. And where if they spend a couple extra $100, they could get an Apple TV or a Roku or an Amazon Fire device that would then allow them to disconnect their computer from the TV, but still keep it connected, especially with an Apple system. You could do AirPlay. So rather than having to carry your machine in and put it right next to the computer, you can actually just run it from across the room or from a different room if you needed to. So there's lots of little things that we can do and think of and work through the process in order to keep those things up and running as well. So that everything works together, so you aren't out in the cold. When you get your new machine, all of a sudden it doesn't connect to anything. Oh, right, it's only money. Yes,
What's your opinion on, screen protectors on an iPad?
on an iPad. Okay, so I always go with tempered glass. And the reason I prefer tempered glass over the plastic is plastic will hold the oils in your fingers. And you're going to have to, once it gets to the point where there's so much oil in that plastic that you can't use the finger to move again, you have to replace that plastic. Tempered glass is just like glass. You can clean it, so it's going to last longer. And the other thing that I've found is that the tempered glass will break, but protect the glass on the iPad where the plastic does not. So if you get something that hits just right, and we've all seen an iPad drop and get hit right there in that corner area that just shatters the whole entire screen. And a lot of times the tempered glass will save it because it will shatter the tempered glass, rather than if you had plastic on it, the glass takes the process. So you end up losing your screen when that happens. Uh-huh. No, that's an accessory that you put on it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I will second tempered glass as a recommendation.
Trying to remember.
I manage all the iPads where I work, and the guys in the warehouse, do tend to drop their iPads.
Regularly.
Even with, the rubber, pieces around
Yep.
it are designed to like be dropped from 3 stories up, and I can't tell you how many times I've been so happy to peel the tempered glass off and not have to send it to Apple Care for repair.
Yeah.
So you keep peeling off like you're sticking to it. Yeah, it's just like a screen protector. It's a screen protector. It's kind of harder, just glues on, but it is harder and it's easier to clean and everything.
There's actually 10 or 12 tempered glass manufacturers out there. Zag is a good one. Most all of them are pretty consistent. The ones I like are the ones that come with the template that helps you put them on so that it's very quick and easy. Now, the things that I've learned with tempered glass, if you're doing it, is the first thing you want to do is you want to clean your screen. And usually with something like Windex or vinegar, those kinds of things that you normally clean glass with. Then you want to get a really nice
Really nice what?
towel that doesn't have a lot of lint on it, and wipe it down. You could do a microfiber. Some of the microfibers you have to be careful with because they do have lint on them. So you want a very low hanging microfiber rather than some that have the higher loops. The higher loops are great if you're not going to use anything other than the microfiber itself. But when you're doing the tempered glass, you need to have it completely clean. And then, go ahead.
It's something I've used, actually, the things that you use on your clothes to take the hair off.
The lint brush.
The lint, with the roller that has the adhesive on it.
Well, that's my next step.
Okay.
Once you've got that all clean, then you want to get some kind of either a label. You could just use a regular mailing label or something and go in there and clean up all the little pieces of lint or dust that are on the screen. So
Shine
that,
light across the screen.
yep, you can actually see those things. So you get your iPhone out and you put it on flashlight and just screen it right across the top of your iPad or your iPhone, your new iPhone, and then use the label or the sticky piece. A lint brush works really well. Many of the tempered
Hello?
glass pieces come with those things.
Can't hear you again.
Are you not hearing me?
You black out sometimes.
Oh, no, that's not good. I'm sure that's probably the internet connection. So once you get the little sticky piece and get all of those pieces off, then you're going to put the screen down. And if you run it, you can actually see how it's moving and how it's adhering to your system. Take a credit card or something that is nice and consistent, a ruler, those kinds of things, and push any of the air bubbles that are in the system out. You could absolutely, yeah. And if you do that, then a lot of times those will get to the point where you've got a nice, clean response without a bunch of air bubbles or things that are distracting.
Switching subjects, but
Sure.
our monitor. Microfiber.
Yes, for monitors, you can use just the microfiber. What I usually do is if I've got something that's really dirty, or if I'm putting a cover on like a laptop or a monitor itself, then I use a little bit of Windex. Yeah, with the microfiber. Yeah, don't look at mine.
What about using eyeglass wipes?
You can use eyeglass wipes, absolutely. Those work very well as well. So, and they now even have Windex wipes that you can buy from Amazon in a little container, just like you do Clorox wipes.
Why have I read in general that Windex shouldn't be used on certain things? I don't know why.
Because of the ammonia. You don't want to use a lot of it. You just want a very little bit of it. That's why I don't use a Windex wipe directly on it. What you do is you put Windex on the microfiber and then use that, because it absorbs all the ammonia, but the cleaning agent is still there.
Walmart sells a whole box of Zeiss lens cleaning. I don't know if you've seen them or not, but like you get a whole box for like $4.
Yeah, they're really
Those big, big
inexpensive.
packets. I used to carry like several in my pockets on my.
Yeah.
They also do make the Windex now that are designed for electronics. I'll actually say safe for electronics. On the
Right.
bottle.
Yeah. It has less ammonia, and the electronics ones, I think, don't have ammonia at all. They have alcohol.
Usually put fabric.
So,
I assume that you recommend you the tempered glass for your iPhone also?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. The tempered glass for your iPhone as well. Yeah. Tempered glass is not heavy at all. Yeah. It's very, very light. The advantages that you get from a $9 piece of tempered glass is immense. I mean, I don't know how many times we've saved screens because of it. Okay, other questions so far?
So if I had tempered glass on my iPhone, I wouldn't now have a.
Correct. Yeah, what you would end up with is the tempered glass would have been scratched, not your iPhone.
Justification.
There you go. That's a great justification to get a new device.
Can you recommend a glass for a MacBook Pro? to Protect the screen?
I usually what I do is I get on Amazon and I look at tempered glass. And most of their tempered glass is pretty good. What I do is I look for one that gives you a lifetime warranty for your device. What they don't realize is most Mac users keep their Macs much longer than most PC users do. But usually if they're willing to guarantee for the lifetime of that device, that means that their glass is going to be a very nice glass.
So if you do it on the computer, can you still close?
Sure, yeah, it's very thin. And the one thing that it does do on a computer is it keeps the oils from your keyboard getting onto your screen.
Do you have one on yours there?
I do.
I noticed
See, I
it's
see.
cutting down the reflections a lot too.
Yes, it does.
What do you see in the reflection?
So on mine, it doesn't have it. I see the window, I see lots of reflections. On hers, it's not there.
Yeah.
No, but I see lots of fingerprint.
Yeah, well, that's because I touch my machine all the time. Yeah. So, but the nice thing is I know I can clean it without any problems. And if it breaks, if I happen to drop my machine, the tempered glass will break and the screen won't. So, which is not as important for me because I'm pretty careful, but for my daughter, it's super, yeah. For my daughter, it's super important because my daughter is, if it can break, she's gonna break it. 37. Padded cases, absolutely. No, she won't. I've already given up hope that she's gonna grow out of it. Exactly. So
If it's really thin,
it is very thin. Yeah.
where do you find it?
I just got it at Amazon.
Buying-
Go to Micro Center. They have everything. Yes, they do.
AI summary from Zoom, this is the way, when I go to a summary, it says. Ask admin to enable meeting summary with AI, and
So,
do you know anything about that?
um,
On Zoom,
yeah, basically what that would be is that's literally doing a summary at the end of the process of all the highlights of the Zoom meeting. Is
Can
what
it
that's
do
about.
that?
Sure it
Does
can.
AI do that?
AI will do that for you. Yes.
Do I, we're gonna send the request?
You would have to ask Richard about that.
Uh,
That's not my call.
so we typically just post these recordings on the website.
Yeah.
I've never tried to use AI to do a meeting summary before. I guess we could try that and see what happens.
What Apple did was, they made, all their podcasts have scripts, even comedians.
Yeah.
Making improvisation, they get word for word transcriptions of the podcast.
That's exactly what that does.
All right, so then this thing, the AI summary maybe makes a transcription,
Yes, it
or
does.
maybe it makes consolidation.
It does. You can either have it do an outline or a transcription, one or the other. That's a setup in each individual Zoom account.
The bottom of the screen shows a summary and it says uses AI companion if you want to enable a summary. And then you have to send a request to the administrator.
Correct.
So I see that now. Paul has sent me a request. Before I hit enable, I'm gonna read this and think about it. But thank
Yeah,
you.
okay, I'm desperate, you know, it just, I never saw that before.
Yeah, I've never seen that either.
I've been poking around to figure out how I can raise my hand virtually, but I don't know how to do
Hmm.
that.
So,
Any-
all right.
Sure.
Yes, they used to have a little space that you could raise your hand virtually.
I have a question.
Sure.
You mentioned the issue with Apple making the hard drives so small that people have problems.
Uh-huh.
Is there any suggestions on trying to do external and dropping files into that directly instead of putting them on your device?
You know, they used to make it super easy to do that. And you could just get a great big external hard drive, drop it in. The disadvantage was if it was a mobile machine, then you would have to take that hard drive with you as well. And the hard drives are now small enough that that's not a big issue. And you can get the small hard drives almost as full as you can, or as with as many gigs or terabytes as you can the older, bigger hard desktop drives. So that's not an issue. The disadvantage is Apple is now migrating some of their applications to the point where you have to use their internal hard drive or a cloud space and not use an external drive. So we're in a transition again. Go ahead.
That's a surprise.
Well, yes and no. It's a surprise because those of us that actually have to deal with it really didn't want to do that. It's not a surprise because that makes people use more iCloud drive space.
Yes.
And ultimately, they're in the business to make money. So, but now I will say that Apple's drive space is not super expensive compared to other drive spaces that are out there. And with their new addition, you could go 2 terabytes pretty comfortably, or you can now go to their higher rate without spending huge amounts of money.
Is that external drive or is that come with the computer?
That actually is not an external drive, that is cloud space. So
Oh,
it comes with, if you choose to purchase Apple Cloud Space or Apple One, then you get that space as part of that service.
Keep it off your hard drive.
You can keep it off your hard drive. It stays in the cloud. And it allows you to sync and do those things. Of course, you also have, I mean, there's tons of cloud spaces out there, Dropbox, those kinds of things. The advantage that you get with Apple's cloud space over some of the others is that you can keep it in the cloud and still use it on your machine, where most other cloud spaces are going to require you to download that file or whatever you're working on locally while you're working on it and then push it back up to the cloud.
It's also, it syncs with all your devices.
Exactly.
Apple ID, so I can download an actual disk image on my iPad and then later go to my iMac at the house or whatever, because I've downloaded it on my iPad and go to my files and
Right.
grab it, you know.
Which makes mobile computing easier and quicker for everybody in the process.
But now, do you have to set something for it to go to just the cloud and keep it off your hard drive, or is it, if you're in the cloud, is it automatically go there?
There's a-
setting you can adjust. We can talk about that and help us if you like.
Maximize storage.
Yeah, it's maximized storage and it's inside your iCloud settings.
Quite, I believe, drive and Thunderbolt, I think, but the trouble is that it's slow because it's not solid state. That Apple said there's a trade-off, you have to pay more.
Actually, there's multiple reasons that could be. Not just that, but if the drive that you purchased, and you'll see this if you're looking at drives, a a lot of the less expensive drives are still USB 1 or USB 2 and not USB 3 or USB 3.5. So yes, it's going to be much slower, but you get a really nice size drive. So you have to determine, what are you going to use that drive for? Is it for backup? Is it going to be working in the background anyway, and it's going to be slow? A lower rated drive may not be that big of an issue. If you're actually using it for files and those kinds of things, then you want the higher rated drives. You may have to spend more money to get that.
Can I ask a question of everybody? Is everybody backing up? Because if you're not, please do. I just had a client that lost years and years of photographs because he trusted his internal hard drive to last forever. And it's like,
Yeah.
data recovery is a whole lot more expensive than buying an internal drive.
Yeah, remind us every month.
Yes, and not only back up, but back up multiple times, but do different drives or different locations. That's really quite important to really think about that. We talk about accessories, going out and buying a backup drive, buy two.
Yeah.
One to your, friend's house or whatever, store it offsite or,
So the average backup process, and people who study backup and sell backup will tell you you need 3 copies of your backup. You need one that's local. You need one that you can put offsite or do in the cloud. And you need a second one that you do not necessarily as often, but you do in totality once a month or once every 2 months, or however often you feel that those need to be done. In my case, I do mine once a week. Right, exactly. And so I have a local drive that I back up to. I back up to Backblaze, and I back up to Apple's iCloud. And then occasionally I'll back up to Dropbox. But that way I have multiple places that I can go to if something is corrupted in one of those backups. And usually the disadvantage of corruption is if you get corruption in a backup, especially like Time Machine or whatever, if you've deleted that drive, you may have to go back 2 or 3 generations in that corrupted file in order to find a good backup. So if you have multiple backups that are backing up in totality, you can usually find what you're looking for in one of those backups.
So is it possible to put everything that you have in iCloud onto a external drive?
Absolutely. So what you can do is, and what I do every 6 months is I mount my iCloud drive, and then I just drag everything over, holding my option key so it's a copy over to an external hard drive. And that way it backs everything up. I do the same thing with Dropbox, because between my iCloud drive and my Dropbox, if I lose what's on there, I'm completely in trouble. Those are the 2 things where all of my client files and my personal files that are really important to me reside. So I back them up to an external hard drive once every 6 months, so that at the very least, between my backups and those things, if something happens to Apple or to Dropbox, I still have all my data.
I was told that if you want to back up all your photos, you shouldn't do it from your computer because they are like mini pictures. You have to do it directly from the iCloud, which is the full picture. Is that true?
That depends on your settings.
I'm sorry, I'm missing you now.
On that hard drive, I back it up to a RAID back drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's all I do. Now, I'm beginning to run this with the RAID.
And I would like to get something 12 instead of what I have now is I think it's 12. I would like to get a 24. Terabyte.
So on a RAID drive, it's going to depend on how big of drive you can put in that RAID.
What I bought, the thing that I have, it's a tech, I think, the brand is a tech something.
You'd have to go to the manual for that particular hard drive encoder,
Yeah.
what drives they support. 'Cause sometimes they don't support above a certain size.
Like,
Here, you would talk about Synology. perhaps, or-
Yeah, I was looking at that and frankly, it scared me a lot of things, so I decided to stay away from it.
And Lawrence has Synology and I have Synology.
Yeah.
That's what I use.
I got Synology.
And you guys.
Yeah, you guys know what you're doing.
Well, yes and no. I mean, you definitely use a class because, you know, I do it locally, but to remote access my Synology, I mean, I still have things that I could be doing with the Synology. I don't want to take away from Chelanie, but yeah, that's a whole nother topic because there's so many things, so many features that are available, you know, mail serving and media centers, like this, you know, I don't want to take it away.
Absolutely. Somebody online had a question. I'm sorry.
yes, I wanted to know, do you, is it difficult to move everything from the iCloud to all the pictures? I'm talking about pictures now, like I have 27,000, to a 2 terabyte, external hard drive.
So if you want the full version of the image, depending on how you have your system set up in iPhoto, you may have to literally copy all of the photos, literally just, and you can't do all 27,000 at one time because they won't all come down at one time. I find if you do about 100 at a time, you could over a week pretty comfortably spend a couple of hours every day pulling some of those down, and over a week or a week and a half, you will have backed up all of your photos.
So it's a tedious process then.
It is. It's a very tedious process. But the other thing that you have to remember is how important are those? Is that tedium worth what you're pulling down? A lot of those pictures that I have in my iPhoto, I don't have any place else. So yes, for me, it's worth it because they're all of my children and my grandchildren, and then all of the files that we've scanned from my grandparents and my great grandparents and all of those things. And there's not any place else that they are. So I try and back my iPhoto completely up on a yearly basis just because of that.
Thank you. I do the same. I need to do the same.
Okay. Other questions before we talk about actual shopping?
We have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
How much more your presentation do you have?
Well, we've got the shopping and then the question and answer, but
Now, if Jonesy is willing to give up part of his Mac help desk SIG, we can continue, but that's up to him.
Absolutely, of course.
Okay.
well, most of what you're going to be doing is the same thing I would be doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not a big deal. Okay, so now let's talk about shopping. So there were lots of great points made about shopping and where are the places that you want to go. You don't necessarily need a brand new product. You may just need something that's refurbished. Now, I'm one of those people that my heritage is Scotch, which means you look at every single penny you spend. And I'm not afraid to use a refurbished product, especially if it's a tier 1 refurbished product. So Apple has 3 tiers of refurbished products. Tier 1 is when somebody purchases a machine from Apple and they bring it back because it's not the right machine, it didn't have the right size hard drive, they bought something that was too much. You know, they come home and their wife says, "Oh my God, I can't believe you bought that." Or your husband says that. In our case, it's more likely my husband's going to say that than you know, that's another issue is somebody got a gift. It was, oh my God, it's the wrong color, you know? So when it comes back, either it's been opened and they just decided within that 15-day return policy process that it's just not the right product. Apple brings it in, they look at it. If there's nothing wrong with the hardware itself, they will reset it and sell it as a tier 1 process, a tier 1 refurbished product. So you can get that refurbished product from Apple on their refurbished site. You still have Apple Care capabilities. It still has warranty. The only difference is it's not sold as a new product. Now, you can also go to some of the value-added resellers and get some of those products as well. The value-added resellers also have tier 2 products that have been refurbished, where they've actually had to change out a piece of hardware in that device. The Apple refurbished site does not have anything that's had to have any hardware changed out in it. Okay. So, but in many of those cases, when they get to the value-added reseller, even as a tier 2 product, you can still buy Apple Care or those kinds of things with it. And Micro Center is a great place to look at those kinds of things because they carry those kinds of products all the time.
Oh.
And then there's the tier 3 refurbished, which is either done by a value-added reseller, a third party, or it's a product that Apple has leased and then resells as refurbished that do not have the ability to have Apple Care added to them. You're just buying it as is, basically. There usually is a 90-day warranty. Okay, so those are some of the things that you can look at. And there's many places that have refurbished Apple products, from eBay clear up to Other World Computing, Mac Mall, which is somebody else now. I don't remember. Is it OWC now?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there are lots of places that you can purchase refurbished Macs from.
Is it listed in the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3?
No. So the only way to know is to know what kind of warranty you have with it. So a tier 1, and the only place to buy a tier 1 product is from Apple's refurbished website. So if you go to apple.com/shop/refurbished, that is where they sell those products. And they're only going to be within the last 2 generations usually. Sometimes you'll see a 3rd generation, but not very often. Anything older than that is usually a tier 2. And those kinds of places, you can buy refurbished, but you can also get Apple Care with it. You can get Apple Care with the refurbished product from a value-added reseller, you know it's a tier 2 product. Okay. If it's refurbished with 90 days, then you know it's a tier 3 product. And tier 3 is not always refurbished by Apple. It may be refurbished by a third party.
Thank you.
Any additional information, Jonesy? Did I miss anything?
Pretty well, yeah.
Okay,
I would probably only add, maybe speaking as a former salesperson at Micro Center. That when you're looking at some of those tier threes, especially when we had moments, when I remember we had moments where we had some fairly old computers in there. I want to say even some that I would, probably came from a school. You may even ask if there's a way to inspect it or inspect the one that they're pulling for you, just to kind of make sure that's one you want to go with, because some of them can get rough.
yeah. Some of the tier 3 machines, because they were leased, can be a little intense and may have lots of dings or those kinds of things with them.
Right.
So, okay. Let me see if I can get this to work. Okay, it's not working. I don't know what I did to my machine, but
Frozen.
yeah,
All shown.
exactly.
Oh, Jonesy.
No, I've got something here it's a dialog box that's not letting me get into it. There we go. Now I can
Maybe.
hopefully get that working.
Oh, there we go.
So now I'm moving. All right. Apple sells map pricing. So traditionally, the only way you get sales is if that specific vendor is willing to take a hit on their map price. So there are lots of vendors that do on occasion take hits for those, but for the most part, if you're going to buy a new machine, it's going to be the same price at Micro Center that it is at Apple, that it is at whatever. So don't hesitate to go to one of the value-added resellers to purchase.
Want to make a major purchase, get a pay book card through B&H and save sales tax.
There you go.
Repeat.
Okay, so B&H up in New York sells Macs, new and refurbished. And if you have one of their, what they call pay-boo credit cards, you can save sales tax. You used to be able to save sales tax from buying them to begin with, but now they've had to get around it by offering you a credit card. And then if you put it on their credit card, then they'll knock off that 8.25%. So if you're making a decent, spending a couple $1,000s, that's a reasonable savings, put it on their credit card. And then, of course, you can just, if you have the ability, just pay it off when you get the bill. But it's nice to be able to save that 8.25%.
Okay. So the question is since we're out of time, do you want to talk about device migration? Do you just want to do a Q&A? How do we want to go about this?
I'd like to know about migration.
Okay. Good for everybody? All right.
Sure.
So moving information from one device to another device can sometimes be tricky. And with the newer machines, Apple has made it even more tricky because you can't just target disk mode from one machine to the other anymore. Not even if they're all Apple machines. So target disk mode doesn't exist anymore, needless to say. So what you have to do, and my best suggestion is get an external hard drive when you purchase your new machine, because you're going to back up now, right? Everybody's going to back up, and you're going to do a time machine backup from your old machine so that you can move that data to the new machine. So there's two ways to do this. You can do it through the migration assistant, which is not the way I do any of my moves. Okay. But if you walk into Apple and you ask them to help you, that's exactly what they're going to do, is they're going to use the migration assistant. So The only time you want to use the migration assistant is if your machine is on the same operating system, it has the same architecture, and you're moving from time machine. Okay, so 9 times out of 10, all of those are not met. So most people should not be using the migration assistant. And the reason is because when it migrates applications and settings. The disadvantage to that, especially if you're moving from an Intel machine to an Apple Silicon machine, is you're installing the wrong version of the application. Because they're two completely different versions of applications. Okay.
Okay.
Other problem is settings and library information. When you start moving that stuff, there's things in the Apple Silicon operating system that don't exist in the traditional Intel system. And as you're moving that stuff, you can actually replace the wrong pieces and end up with lots more problems than if you just migrate the data. Takes a little bit longer, but you'll have a much more solid system and you'll actually be able to use your computer much longer without the damage.
Migrate data along
Yes,
the apps that wind up incompatible with Apple Silicon.
correct. So you take your time machine backup and you open it manually and you go to your home directory and copy the data from the desktop to the desktop, from the documents to the documents. And inside the library, there's really only about 4 things that you need to move. Okay, your bookmarks. So you need to figure out which browser you're using and where they store those bookmarks. If you have an application that holds data, okay, so I use FTP a lot yet, and my FTP folder that holds all of my bookmarks and everything else is inside application support. So I move that. If you're using the keychain, you need to move your keychain folder. If you use messages regularly, you want to use your messages folder. As you move those, they will ask you if you want to migrate, replace, or merge. And the best option, especially if you're moving from the Intel architecture to the Apple Silicon, is a merge.
Oh, okay, merge.
Okay.
Good.
So what that does is that keeps all of the Apple Silicon information. It's just merging that data into the system. Okay,
What do you recommend?
Thank you. That's helpful.
it's okay, go ahead.
What do you recommend for a novice who doesn't understand a lot of what you said? You know, we normally go to the Apple store and have them do it, which is not what you recommend. You know, and I have, you know, my computer is a 2014 vintage, and obviously at some point I want to go with that one to
Right. So there's a couple of ways to do that. If you want to, I'm happy to answer questions as you go through that process. You're more than welcome to get a hold of me. And we can just do some general Q&A at no cost. Or I'm happy to come literally walk you through the whole process. Sure, you can hire me to do it. We do that at least once a day, 365 days a year.
So for those of you who don't know, in addition to being an awesome Apple expert, Chelanie has a business and
So-
she you can hire her.
Yes,
her
absolutely.
Business.
And anybody that
to
wants
do
my
consulting.
my card, I have lots of cards for everybody. So, and you can go to designbymissmac.com, which is my website.
Now, do you go to the house?
Absolutely. We will come to you. You can come to us. I prefer to come to you because that way we don't have to drag all your stuff around. It's much simpler for everybody concerned. So absolutely. So, and over the next 5 years, 10 years, my grandson has decided he's going to take over the business.
Oh,
So you will start to see Riley popping up in various places and working with me as we go through this process.
awesome.
I'm having a mix of from traditional media, I took Intel to,
Apple Silicon. Uh-huh.
went to Apple. Which one it is? Never mind.
It's okay.
Thinking, even though it's in my Apple machine, it's got an Intel.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Apple Silicon is 3 years old now. Right. Yeah. So if you have an i3, i5, i7, i9, those are Intels. That's what that I stands for. So if you have an M chip, which is M1, M2, M3 at this point, those are Apple Silicon chips. Yeah.
Now you're in my territory.
I have some of those too.
You said something about when you made the list of stuff you're supposed to copy over,
Uh-huh.
you said Apple Silicon.
When you're
I've
moving
got-
from,
I've got, an eye,
Right.
12-year-old.
well, those are going to be the same,
That onto my
right?
two.
So when you do that, you want to do it manually. You don't want to do it through the migration assistant. Okay. And literally the easiest way to do that is do a time machine backup and then manually move the data out of the time machine backup into your new machine.
Wow.
So. Okay, yes,
Federal tax files from other years somehow didn't get,
migrated.
migrated or recovered. Well, it didn't matter, I live at the same address, there was not that much information that it stored.
Mhm.
It said you have last year's TurboTax to import from,
Right.
and, it didn't, but didn't wind up hanging up, I don't know why it lost it.
Well, there could be multiple reasons why that happens. If for some reason, your last year's TurboTax application is no longer on your machine, then it would automatically do that. Or if you've moved the file itself off, then it will do that. So it kind of depends on,
They did, briefly state that, my license became invalid.
okay,
When I.
that would be the
tried
third
to
reason, yes.
Put copy in the motherboard,
Yeah,
so, they had to replace that, and somehow they didn't back up right.
yeah. They actually, it's not the fact that they didn't back it up correctly. It's probably the fact that they didn't open it and relicense the application.
So those of us that actually printed on paper,
Yes,
so we can see it,
yes,
okay, because. of what we
absolutely.
really just- Our piece of paper, we've got it.
Correct. Yes.
I do.
I do too.
I'll back.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, the US government only requires that you keep the last 7 years.
My family has many
Yes.
Yes.
Evernote, what's your opinion of Evernote?
You know, I've got a lot of clients that love Evernote and use it regularly. I find that when I use Evernote, all it makes me do is more work.
You think they're gonna stay in business?
You know, they've had 2 or 3 hiccups that I'm not sure. I mean, it's one of those things that, unless they find a way to upgrade their systems so that they are more efficient, I don't know that they will. Because they really haven't done any major upgrades.
Follow-up question is, Jonesy recommended notes.
I love notes.
I'm just an individual, when I worked, I had a decent sized contact management thing, but I don't need any of that anymore. So I'm backing up to just iCloud. And I'm trying to use only an iPad, no computer. or
Okay.
anything. Would you suggest that I go with Jonesy and go with notes and migrate the stuff over from, or do you have a different one that you would use over Evernote?
Oh, I would go with notes. The reason I would do that is because then if you do ever determine that you need to go back to a computer, or even if you just want to access that data on your iPhone, you have access to it right there. It's quick, it's easy. I use notes for everything from groceries, because I can put it on my iPad, I can put it on my computer, I can put it on my phone, no matter where I am, I have access to that note. And I can put what I need on it quickly and easily. And then when I get to the grocery store, I've got all that information.
Notes is becoming more and more robust with every release.
Yeah, you can use pictures and videos and all kinds of things with notes nowadays.
Now, if I'm understanding you right, you're saying that Jonesy is a genius?
Which we already knew.
Sorry, I didn't have that.
He's very well versed in the things that Apple provides. Yes.
And he's really well versed in.
Mainstay.
All right. So the next step is troubleshooting. What questions do you have or problems do you have that you need answers to? And if I can't answer them, I'm sure Jonesy can.
Yes, monthly basis, he is
My problem is I can't get this Epson to connect to my iPhone,
Okay.
but that's a subject that's not for everybody.
Okay. We can talk about it later. Absolutely.
For everybody else.
I have one question. When I go to tether this iPhone to
Mhm.
this new MacBook Pro
Yep.
to provide wireless access to people,
Right.
it seems to take forever.
Yep.
Is there a reason for that?
Because Apple doesn't expect you to tether your phone to your machine anymore.
I wonder.
So
It-
they
it
haven't
eventually shows
upgraded,
up.
yeah, they haven't upgraded any of that software. Yeah,
Right, because
Yeah.
I thought there was something wrong, we're
Nope.
trying to get this meeting going over time and it,
yeah.
do you see it? No, no, no. Oh, there it is finally, after
Yeah.
a long time.
No, they literally just do not expect you to tether it. And over the next probably year and a half, expect that to go away.
Oh, God.
What?
You think they'll probably start integrating eSIM tech into the Macs, probably at that point?
No,
No.
no. And they will expect you to just link to it as a hotspot, period. So it's all wireless.
So the reason I do it is because the Carrollton wireless Wi-Fi is not always as great as it should be.
Right,
It's shared amongst the whole library.
right.
And often when I tether this thing, then the presenter can use that.
Right, and you
and
get a
have
better
Great
connection.
connection.
Absolutely. The disadvantage to that is Apple doesn't expect you to do that anymore
Mm.
because they don't get out of their little ivory tower and understand how the people out here in the real world actually use their products. And I love Apple. I have been Apple for years and years and years. But sometimes they don't have reality. And it's not just based because they're in the ivory tower. Okay, they do things the way they do things, and they do things the way they do things. But the other thing that I'm finding is as the programmers get younger, they forget that there's reasons to do things the way we that are older do things. 2 years ago, I spent probably 2 sessions with the network engineers explaining why we need to be able to migrate mail from one version to the other. And they said, well, but it's all on the server. But it's not. I have 30 years of mail in my mail, and 90% of that is not on the server. It's in my mail.
Good if this is exiting
Yes,
their software and their hardware, because the young kids just, well, it's right there, you know, it's like,
But you need to
Where?
remind them that the
you know,
old people are
hiding,
buying.
you know, menus and things like, I mean, we have so many features available to us that a lot of us are not even familiar with, you know, because it's supposed to be intuitive. And there's, you know, you really need to, and there's no user manual. I mean, there's things I learn every day about, you know, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know I could do this with that device or whatever.
exactly.
You know, it's
I wouldn't mind relying on hotspotting into my phone all the time, but I don't have anything to back up this feeling, but I feel like this setup into this brand new MacBook Pro is better. Provides a better Wi-Fi than hotspotting directly to my phone.
And wire always is better than wireless because it's more consistent. And you're actually going to get a little bit faster connection.
That's what it
as it's
seems like.
tethered.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, you had a question.
For kind of process.
Okay,
what he just said. You wire the phone into the Mac and then,
So that this hardware is able to use my 5G plus, I think.
yes,
To create a Wi-Fi connection that anyone can use, similar to the Carrollton Wi-Fi. So I have a Wi-Fi source here based on this,
correct.
which seems awesome. I mean, it works, but it takes forever to start up. It's not a hotspot.
And
Right,
he does it for our meeting.
right.
We like it a lot.
Mainly so that the presenter has a faster Wi-Fi than the Carrollton Wi-Fi.
What if there's a collision between the channels?
you know, that'd be explained some other time.
Possible,
So
but
if
not
you
probable.
go to your Wi-Fi sources, you should see Richard's MacBook Pro show up as a Wi-Fi option. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, see.
Why wouldn't you use hotspot instead?
It just seems slower, not as,
Wi-Fi is always slower than wired.
Huh.
So, okay, other questions?
Very good. I appreciate it.
We can touch with you.
Okay, so you can get in touch with me either via cell, which is 214-718-1967. You don't have to write that down. I do have cards that I can give you. You can reach me via email, missmac@mac.com. You can reach me via text at my cell number. You can reach me on my website by going to my contact us page. What else do you need to know?
Been in business for many, many years.
26. I was with Apple for 16 years before that. Okay, so if you have a device that doesn't have a cellular connection to the internet, you would need a hotspot or a tethered connection. Now, Apple expects you to use your phone as a
Thing
hotspot.
doesn't have cellular data,
This.
No, the computer does not have cellular data.
but but it has Wi-Fi.
Correct.
So why does Wi-Fi to transmit Wi-Fi?
It has cellular, which is transmitting Wi-Fi. So if he was just going Wi-Fi, he would connect to the Wi-Fi here at the,
Or can you provide Wi-Fi?
Not without this, through that. That's just the way they had it set up.
yeah.
So since I bought this brand new computer, I thought, I want this to be the Wi-Fi source. This has got to be the fastest thing, out there. How do I do that? And I learned that this was the best way to do it, as long as it works.
My computer is not an M3, and so it will be, a lot.
You can do the same thing he does, even if it's not an M3, with a phone. You have to connect to some kind of Wi-Fi. In his case, instead of Wi-Fi, he's connecting to his cellular. So you could create a hotspot on your phone and do it wirelessly, but it's not going to be as fast as if you tether it, which means there's a wire.
Like,
Just to let you know, my Wi-Fi went out yesterday. AT&T failed me, but I have 2 hotspots on 2 phones. We use them for our computer, and it works just as well as if we were on the internet.
Absolutely. The disadvantage is if you use over 5 gigs of data, they will start to slow your Wi-Fi down.
Gotcha.
So that's the disadvantage to it.
Yes.
So, yes, sir.
Clarification on the migration.
Yes.
I've got my old computer, it's got all the junk on it, the new computer doesn't have.
Right.
Do I do a flash drive on the old computer and use the backup? The only thing's backed up is the old computer on the time machine.
Okay. So you could actually unplug your time machine device,
And
plug it into the new computer, and then manually move your data from time machine over to the new machine.
Even though it's an M2,
Yes.
so just take it directly to the new computer.
Yep. Take it to the
and-
new computer. When it plugs in, it's going to ask you if you want to use it as time machine. Click no until you get everything migrated. Okay. 1. Number 2, and that's just to protect the data that's already there. 2, you want to manually move, not use the migration assistant. Occasionally, it will also pop up and say, do you want to migrate your data? No, you do not.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Other problems?
Vision Pro, I don't know how to zoom to the club. Sometime you're gonna show me what's going on with other stuff.
Yeah, we can talk about that when we get finished here. Absolutely.
Let's check.
Has anyone had an issue trying to scan a lot of pages to their computer?
What kind of problems are you having?
Well, it kept dropping, but I came up with a workaround. I have a cloud drive, which I think most of the people here in the audience have one form or another. And my printer would scan to the cloud. So I was able to do like several years, 12 months with 4 pages each month, able to scan all that in to my cloud drive, never dropped. And then I was able to pull it down onto my computer, and I collated the pages down on the computer. I mean, it was so much faster. I spent multiple hours trying to get this thing to scan to the computer. And I was done in no time going to the cloud drive.
So what we're finding is that most of the printer manufacturers are no longer adding the piece of software that they used to have, that when you go to your printer and you hit scan to computer, available anymore. So you literally have to start the scan from the machine in something like image capture in order to keep it consistent, because everybody is pushing everybody into the cloud.
Wow.
Yeah, well, definitely the cloud was so much faster.
Yeah.
But if you had image capture up and you started it from the machine, then it would show.
Then it would go ahead and run very comfortably usually.
Several hundred pages.
You would have to do them in 25 to 35 page increments.
Yeah, going to the cloud, you don't have to do that.
So, yeah.
I'm confused. What device do you use to scan them with?
I'm using an HP Office Jet,
Yeah.
and my cloud drive is Google Drive. But any of them that HP that you can set up on your HP Office Jet should work.
Yeah, and they will do Dropbox, Google,
Right. Yeah, a whole bunch of
all
stuff.
of the majors. So
I was so pleased I got out of that, because I'm an oldie with Ray and the others. And I was so pleased to get out of that mindset and think outside the box and
yep.
come up
And
with that
it-
solution.
Yeah, literally with the newer devices and the newer things, we're seeing a lot less computer to to device
Really?
possibilities, because everybody is moving everything into the cloud.
Anyway, I don't have a plan to buy a new computer soon, but I have found the presentation today excellent. Thank you. And I'm finally glad to know that we're using Zoom, because whatever software we were using before, I gave up and just decided, okay, well, when I'm able to get over to where they're meeting, I'll get to attend the meeting. But usually on Saturday morning, I've got stuff where I really don't have time to go over where you guys are. So this was wonderful. This is the first meeting I've been able to attend in a long time.
Good.
So what we did is we signed up for a year subscription to Zoom Pro. So Apple Corps of Dallas owns that subscription. That's what I'm using right now. So it sounds like we're okay with updating this every year and getting a new, it's like $150 or something.
Yeah.
So
Well worth it.
Yeah, I paid my dues for the next year.
there we go.
There you go.
It works. I use Zoom with when I was working as a professional during COVID and everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
So whoever's president next year, go ahead and do that. Because my 2 terms are up. I can't do it next year.
Feel relief coming.
Somebody.
All right. Other questions or other problems that you want to tackle?
That one, if it's not too late, Gary Clark,
lot of documents in at one time. But for some reason, it's not working with my big desktop computer, and I've just about given up on it. Want to go all iPad, so
Okay. Well,
I don't know if there's a question in there, but.
So if you're going to iPad, that's when you would use that cloud scan. And so you could scan it to the cloud and then you have access to it on your iPad.
Yeah, but ScanSnap doesn't have that. Just have the machine, I don't.
ScanSnap should have a cloud option. Yeah, if you download their newer driver, or you may have to go to, since you're on your iPad, you may have to actually go to your ScanSnap account and add the cloud feature, which will allow you to sign into your Dropbox or your iCloud or your Google Drive or whatever, so you can scan to their cloud.
Wow.
Yeah.
Question. The first
Gary,
step is
how can I help you?
Application term will terminate August 2024.
Oh,
Uh-huh.
So they are recommending that you download ScanSnap Home for your mobile device.
look up at the screen.
Yeah.
Up on the screen.
Download-
Gary.
Okay. I just got a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max,
Yes.
and I'm getting this message, unable to connect to my Apple Watch. And
Okay.
everything else worked fine. I was very surprised that I didn't have to do anything. It was a pretty seamless transition, except for this.
Okay. So your Apple Watch is paired to your old phone.
And
So-
I did the erase on that.
Okay, so if you've already erased it, what you're gonna have to do is reset your watch up with your new phone. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna wipe your watch and reload it to link to that phone.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, so you'll go to your Apple Watch app and you'll hit pair new watch. And you'll put your watch in pairing mode.
Yeah, so I got the pair new watch.
Right?
And when I do that, it spins for a little bit and it says unable to connect.
You actually have to, on your watch,
Oh,
You have to go to the
Oh,
watch,
go in and put it in pairing mode.
right?
okay. Gotcha. I knew there was an answer in there somewhere.
The other
So-
option is if that doesn't work, and every once in a while it doesn't, you want to go into your watch, on your watch, and erase the watch, so it
Mhm.
goes into setup mode. And
Okay.
then you should be able to reset it to your new phone.
All right, I'll do that. And today's double payday, so you get paid twice as much as you're going to get before we started.
Ah,
Richard said that was okay, right?
I can do that with my watch on my new phone, so I had to reset it back to factory and then repair it up with my new phone, and that worked wonders.
Okay, great. Thanks for the info.
Sure. Other questions? Okay. I don't know how you normally do your help desk stuff.
Well, usually I kind of open it up to questions.
Okay.
If you guys are keeping quiet, this makes our jobs usually easier.
I have some comments, it's a little bit related to health.
I mean, at this point here, I'll take just about anything. I do have an accessory that I might recommend to y'all. It's actually a 3D printed accessory.
Can we do one thing
Oh, of
before?
course.
Can you enable your mic and mute you
I can do that.
so that the
I can do that
recording,
too.
I'm gonna keep recording.
put Jonesy on there.
We'll see.
There he is.
Let me see if I can switch over my video. In here, I don't know. I don't know if you guys, okay.
Oh, yeah, I probably need to turn my sharing off, don't I?
Thank you.
Well, fuck.
Hey,
Pardon my
Jonesy.
language. Well, oh,
There we
well,
go. Okay,
there we go.
There you
All right,
go.
well,
Yeah.
Gallery display.
Where are you,
Got
John?
it going here. All right. Well, all right. All right. So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I got this off of either eBay or Etsy. It's called a SLEV, SLEV. So I'm guessing they're going with the kind of IKEA version of sleeve here. But one of the things I always was kind of upset with the new MagSafe chargers was the fact that they didn't have the built-in cable management. For some of y'all that might remember, the old MagSafe adapters, power adapters, have these little things on the back that would pop up, and then you can actually wrap your cord around it on there.
Mhm.
I did find that a lot of people didn't know. I guess didn't know that that's what they did.
Yeah,
Because I whenever I'd show some people that their adapter could do that, they'd look at me like I was some sort of wizard that just showed them that you can wrap your cord around it now. Well, Apple, for whatever reason, decided they didn't want to include those in the new ones. So this guy makes these little slabs, and they actually have little adapters. So if you have a smaller MagSafe adapter, it'll adjust the fit. And yeah, it looks very similar on there. Let's see if I can post the link here later for y'all. But essentially, when I'm done for the day, yeah, I don't know where the dinging is coming from. So I can basically put my little MagSafe in there, and then when I'm done, I can just
sorry.
wrap it around on there, and it even has a little nice spot here to kind of tuck the cable in, so it keeps my cables nice and tidy when I'm traveling on there. So this has probably been one of my new little favorite accessories on there. Again, I'll see if I can post the exact link to it. It's called a SLEV, SLEV on there, and it's been a really welcome addition. They also the guy who made this or designed this he has different colors as well that he 3D prints these in, so you can select the color that fits you best.
Now, the other
Huh?
thing that you might not know, but you can actually get USB-C to MagSafe 1, MagSafe 2,
Oh, yeah,
MagSafe 3, as well as USB-C, so you can use one adapter for multiple machines. So, the cables are out there going to USB-C, so you can use these new adapters if you need to for some of the older machines.
So I gathered that this Zoom allows the presenter to make a gallery view, but I can't take initiative to do that.
So I don't know about Zoom for Apple Vision. I've not had it.
No, the Zoom, on my computer,
On the-
I see the
on the computer,
gallery
okay.
view.
So this is actually just full screen on Zoom. So you'll notice if you don't have it full screen, it may adjust it depending on how you have it set up. You can also change the view in the top right corner on here. So if you select gallery, it will go into this mode that shows me all your wonderful friendly faces for those of y'all that have decided to share your faces today. I'll admit, I sometimes just choose an avatar.
Now what happens?
So you can also go up here to view and make sure that gallery is checked.
I got gallery.
Okay.
checked now. All right.
All right, so, and
Maybe
this
we
will
can
show it
connect-
this way unless I start to share my screen to show you guys what is going on my screen. But that might depend on what questions you guys give me. All right. No burning questions at all?
I
Nothing
wanna
to stop
work
you?
on my Apple Vision
All
Pro.
right, all right.
All right, sometime before the end, I go to the
All right.
next meeting, and they won't know what the hell I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I may not either, because again, I would
You
assume
don't have one.
that Zoom would have an app in the App Store
They
for
have an
Zoom.
app in the App Store for
Okay.
Vision Pro, but it doesn't work with the Apple Core. It works for Mensa.
Interesting.
Something Apple Core is doing wrong, but I don't know what it is.
In
And
the Zoom, you
I
mean?
tried to initiate a conversation with their text, the Apple
Their
text,
text,
and
yeah.
I had to filter robot that forgot everything I asked, and I rewrote it. And, And,
Yeah, the best solution for Zoom is, you need to sign into Zoom. If you don't have a free account, sign up for a free account,
I did sign up. for a
Okay,
free account.
then go
I
and
on
do
my
it.
Computer.
then do a ticket and ask them. My guess is they may not have anybody that does Apple Vision yet. So they
But they-
probably
they-
don't have any techs that do.
Google had said that they had prepared it in February, something that would work on Apple Vision Pro.
Okay,
And, there's
Charger, like a little.
there's
Oh, yeah.
a web app.
I have one for
to
my
find out
watch that does that too.
applications
It looks
for
like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember, because they didn't have.
It's a matrix.
Did I find Zoom
So wanted to ask.
on, through this web presence that has remote installation of
You and your
apps
next-
from the app
Not a
store.
lot.
I'm now going through the.
Mostly like
thing
RetroPie.
for- There's a danger if I can download iOS apps onto the Vision Pro,
uh-huh,
and they sometimes work. But there are embellishments and 3D
right,
controls and stuff that guys who made iOS apps didn't throw in, because they don't know.
right.
All right, and now I'm looking to see, Zoom on Apple Vision Pro, and it doesn't give me hits, at the Apple Store.
Okay,
But the thing is, Google had people reporting things, but they don't know, they're not vetted.
Right.
Publishers, so you don't know whether to trust them. Because they're not peer reviewed.
right. And, the last
How many
time,
people here have Apple Vision Pro?
Probably no one.
One,
This is it?
this is it.
Okay.
And he's giving a demo of that next meeting.
Yeah, that's why I'm nervous.
All right.
It's not that I'm imposing it on people.
For family, you don't
buy
need
it,
to
watch.
All right.
Well, it's such an awesome new piece of hardware, and you've got one, so we thought, let's see you do something with
But
it.
if I can't share the view with you through Zoom,
Yeah.
So you've got.
we
the
have to be
on.
on a,
So the
try
question,
a FaceTime.
so the question is, how do you share your screen from a Vision Pro in Zoom? Is really the question here. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I'll do a little research.
I can't even get onto the meeting with Zoom.
Okay.
Through your Apple Vision. You mean, okay.
And I use the link that you give, I go to the web address and I press the button.
Yep.
and then it's-
Are you doing it in person here?
Huh?
Are you doing it in person here, your presentation? Yeah, you should be able to just share it to someone's laptop and then they can share their screen. You can, I know you can share your Vision Pro to your laptop or your desktop.
Yeah.
Yeah, so once you do that, you just share your screen.
Laptop.
Well, the thing is, I have to share to everybody's screen.
No, you share your screen in Zoom.
Just to whoever's
It'll
projecting.
show up there.
Well, we can do
Oh, okay.
it. We can do it. We can do it.
Yeah,
We can
we'll
do
make it work.
All right. And that is definitely one of the things, you have to keep in mind is, I mean, I know you all been here when new brand new hardware has come out.
yeah,
You know, the iPhone and the iPad and heck, even the Apple Watch, with the Apple Vision being so brand new, it'll probably take a little while for it to take off, I think. Especially with the starting price of what, 3,600,
yeah,
3,500, 3,600 on there. That's pretty much the only reason I don't have one yet. I was like, I don't have that in my bank account at the moment. I really wanted one, but I was like, not 3,600 enough for me, at least for now. That can change. But as I see more and more articles of, you know, doctors using it during surgery to allow them to see, you know, organs and bones on people that they're working with, and x-rays, and more businesses are using it or figuring out how that they can use it for, you know, business models and virtual models. And, you know, it's funny, we were talking about it at my job, because we do essentially events, and our big thing is corporate events. So we do like the big events that, you know, big companies like, you know, American Airlines and Intel and Google and so forth, the big events that they do that usually make the news, and how, you know, possibly some of those events will have virtual experiences and augmented experiences as well. So it's such a brand new really interesting brand new frontier of how these, putting on a computer on your face might be the next frontier, and how that technology will evolve. And like most things, I think Apple's step into this realm will also help it progress, because it did feel like Sony's step into it and Meta's step into it. Yeah, they were there, but no one really was taking a whole lot of huge notices. And now that Apple's in the fray, I think that creates everyone's resolve to step it up and be the next big thing. So it will be definitely interesting next couple of years to see how that technology evolves.
Well, and it very well could be that Zoom just doesn't have that capability yet.
Mhm.
Is there any comment?
It does, in Mensa, that I can do share Vision Pro. I can go on Vision, but the sound has to come out of my speaker. I have to have a double presence where I'm on my Mac
Uh-huh.
and the Vision Pro and the sound.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
So let me check with their tech support and find out where they are on that app. So I would guess that app is not completely functional yet.
Gonna check the support of Zoom.
Yeah,
Okay, we can do that.
yeah.
Has anybody put Zoom on their television?
Yeah.
And is there any comments on how to go about it?
There's actually a Zoom app for your Apple TV. You have an Apple TV. You use an Apple TV?
Well, no, I mean, apparently, there's supposed to be a way to use Zoom on your TV.
If you have a
Not just
smart TV.
AirPlay it.
Yeah, if you have a smart TV, it's inside. If you have Sony, go to the Sony store. Or if you have LG, they have it in their store as well. Samsung has it in their store.
Okay, and load the app.
Right, and load the app on your smart TV.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then you can use your phone or your iPad as a camera.
correct.
Kind of like I'm doing right now. Right now, you're seeing my iPhone camera with Zoom
Right.
with no wires.
And no net.
No net, yes.
Before we conclude, I have two unrelated comments. I think I've been designated as a member of the Apple User Group Resources Advisory Board by the Apple Board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So monthly, we get a email from the lady that her name is Sandra, I can't remember her last name. But yeah, there are offers that are available to all user groups, and they use codes to be able to invoke the discount. But they have certain products that they offer on sale and discounted. One of them being 1Password with a 25% discount. And I can pass these codes on. I can forward the email so it can be distributed through Taylor or through whoever is distributing the emails for Apple, for the ACD. But 1Password, 25% off. Everweb, for anybody that's interested in new website development, 50% off. Q Publishing, who makes books, 35 to 45% off. My favorite one, this is the one that I really want to push, is Take Control Books. Apple user groups get 30% discount on their library of Take Control books. They're great. They're very concise, to the point, and they sell for basically around $14, $15. You get 30% off, and you can get them as an ebook. There's not a printed book, but it's an ebook. And I pretty much buy the whole collection. I pretty much subscribe to and take advantage of that discount. Anybody that's interested in Tech Tool Pro for Micromat, a 50% discount. So but there, anyway, we've got a list of discounts that we get each month from the user group advisory board, which I can certainly pass on.
If you can send me that
I
email,
can send you that
I'll
email.
give it to everyone.
we are a member of that group, and we, I don't know if those offers have ever been offered to ACD members, but I can encourage.
They gave a talk with us one time. and
Yes.
Then we got a discount for anybody.
Yeah,
That's true.
it's kind of an ongoing, the user groups have the discount to the Take Control books, which I think they're wonderful. If anybody's looked at their website, takecontrolbooks.com. There you go, right up on the screen. They just came out with that brand new one there on the left, the iPhone photography is a brand new release. That's a brand new book that just came out. $14 with a 30% discount. Jeff Carlson, a well-known photographer, is the one that produced that book. And I think everybody would really, if you enjoy iPhone photography, I think you pick up some really interesting tips through that Take Control book. So I can pass on that discount code through Richard, and we'll get that out to everybody.
Okay, so for next month, we're gonna be back at Hebron and Josie Library, not this one. I apologize for the hopping around, but that's what they give me. So Hebron and Josie for the Vision Pro demo. And then it depends on where you live. It's north of here.
Right now,
You know, from this spot, go back out and head north on Josie.
I messed up with, aiming my map here, and it went there, it was 9 minutes.
Yeah. I wish we could have the same spot every month like we did at Richardson, but with the library, you know, I wasn't able to do that. So we have to be flexible. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chelanie.
let me offer a tip for Zoom. If you're on sessions and you want to play music, it's gonna cut you off on the high frequency unless you set the Zoom app in settings to music.